Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for drawing wrinkles and also for letters. Okay, so really the wrinkles is just going to be a continuation of what we've already been doing to get these drawings done, where we're just going to go back and forth with our eyes. We're going to look at what we're drawing here, look back at our reference photo, and go back and forth until they look like they are the same thing. Okay, so I notice over here that there's kind of this dark shape. So I'm just gonna kind of draw that dark shape in here. And I'm not gonna shade it yet because we're not gonna add value until our contour is completely finished, right? And that may not be completely right, but if I notice something is not right, I can go back and change some things to it. Okay, another thing that I've done is I've kind of made marks to myself here that I notice that this is kind of a different layer of the paper fabric. So I'm going to kind of draw in where some of that stuff is shaded. This step kind of helps you too to know how accurately you've drawn things. And if it's not as accurate as maybe you'd like, that's okay. Just do your best and by filling in the space that you see, okay? All right, so now I see kind of this line that comes up, kind of curves down, and then it curves back. So I know I'm gonna shade that when I get to that point where I'm adding value. Don't mind the bell there. Okay, I notice another little detail here, so I'm gonna just draw that in so I know where that goes. Okay, and then really twists are just about kind of putting the shadows in where they belong. So up here, I'm going to kind of I'm looking at this shape here. Gonna kind of put this in here so that I know that there's shading there when I get to that point. And I've drawn this line in here to represent how this kind of curves up. But now I'm going to also make sure that this matches how I want it to. A lot of the wrinkles are going to come when you add your value in, because really wrinkles are just showing us like highlights and lowlights and where they belong. Okay, once I start getting some of these lines put in here, it'll start to look more and more like wrinkles. So be patient with yourself in this process. And you may end up having to change a few of the lines that you've drawn before now that you're looking a little bit closer, and that is absolutely okay. Okay, I'm just gonna add a little bit more detail here. I think I've got this one here that I need to mark in. And it kind of lands here. Okay, so that's starting to resemble more and more what I see on my page here, right? Okay, so I will do that for any other wrinkles I might have. Now let's move on to letters. So really the only trick with letters is to make sure that you're seeing them as shapes instead of as actual letters. I've tried to make sure that this line here is parallel to this line up here. And I'm just gonna kind of divide this. I'm gonna kind of put a structural line in here to divide that space. Okay, as I try to put the fruit shoes in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna kind of divide that line in half. And I'm drawing these lines in lightly so that if I make a mistake, I can easily erase and try again. All right, that looks about right. So now we're just gonna kind of, at this point, go back and forth with our reference photo. And if you'd like to make some similar lines on here to kind of see where those letters are. I'm gonna replicate kind of those lines on here. I'm gonna treat the first line I drew as center, but I'm gonna give myself a little space between those letters there. I'm gonna make sure I leave some space for myself at the top. Okay, but now I kind of have a map, if you will, that shows me where my letters can go in. Okay, so I see that my U is kind of broken up between the two. And I notice that it's thicker here than it is over here. Excuse me. Now I want to get my eye in here. And I may use a ruler to kind of help me get the line straight if I feel it's necessary. Okay, and I'm paying special attention to noticing how the letters look and what kind of shapes they make, just like when I was putting in any other line I've done so far, right? Trying really hard to not just think of it as a U or an I, or in the letter I'm starting now as a T, but instead it's just shapes that make up things. I'm gonna go back and do my R. And I'm constantly going back and forth between looking at my reference image and at my paper where I'm drawing. Okay, so now I've got the fruit put in there. I may have to go back and make some changes to it if it is not exactly right. And now I can use that as to help me put in the choose part down here. Okay, the same will be true for when you do the Tootsie Roll, right? So let's use a ruler here. It's going to put in kind of that white line that grounds where our Tootsie Roll letters start. Rulers are a great help for getting straight lines. Now I'm going to ignore this R here because again, I don't have to draw every single detail I see in these. I just need to make sure that I meet the objectives for this assignment. Okay, and it may be helpful to flip this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Drop my ruler. Now I'm going to put in kind of that grounding line for the Tootsie Roll. Okay, this line is essentially right here. And then I'm going to put in a top line that gets all of the higher letters. Make sure that these lines are parallel, as close as you can get, right? Let's see, I think I need to do that one more time. Okay. And then I'm going to put in another line that's going to help me kind of get to where the E and the O and the I end up. So it's not quite half. It's a little less. I'm going to guess about here. And I'm going to use my ruler to help me. And I'm going to again try to make that a parallel line. So I'll draw them lightly just in case I need to change it or fix it. Something that can also help you when doing this, like I have a lot of detail and a lot of graphite on the page now, and I don't want it to get all smeared. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay a piece of paper on top here of the work I've already done so that I don't have to redo it. All right. Now I'm gonna divide this line in about half. And I can use the ruler again to help me get an actual straight line. Okay, and that's about where I am going to start my R. It's good to start in the middle just in case you run out of space, which happens, and it may happen to me. Circles are kind of hard. The best way to make something as close to you can as a perfect circle is to just go over it a few times and then erase the marks that you don't think belong. Okay. I'm just going to erase my structural lines through those letters because I think they're where they need to be. Remember that your kneaded eraser, if you use that, then it will not leave residue like my pencil was just doing. So this one I can take in here and clean things up. I can also mold it to get into tight spaces. And you'll see that that doesn't leave any residue. I'm going to go in and do the E. Sometimes the easiest way to do this is to kind of block your shape in first, right? Because this is going to be kind of the same shape as this circle here, as the O. So this is kind of a structural line in itself. And then instead of it being totally enclosed, I'm just gonna draw this line in here. And I can erase that part that I don't need. All right. Stick our eye in here. So in this situation, I can't necessarily see my eye here, and I know I want to put that dot there. So what I might do is go back and grab my candy and look at what that eye actually looks like and put that in there. Then I'll put my S in and I'll continue that. I'll go back and put in the chew and I will add in any other wrinkle detail that I find. Okay, I hope this was helpful to help you learn how to draw letters realistically and how to draw wrinkles, folds in a wrinkle. And remember, those two things are required when your drawing is finished.